and welcome everyone to today's presentation, which is about the little verb to be. Let me share my screen and see what I've got to tell you about this verb. Okay, so first of all, before we look at to be itself, we need to review the difference between action and state verbs, and then also define what are linking verbs, because verb be is the most common linking verb in English. So let's have a look at the difference between action and state verbs. So action or dynamic verbs describe an action like do, sleep, discuss, whereas state or stative verbs describe an emotional, physical, or mental state. So for example, I am doing a course, that's an action, whereas I like the course, it's an emotional state. He is sleeping is an action, whereas he has a headache is a physical state. We discussed the issue, that's an action, completed action in the past, whereas we agreed on a solution, it's a mental state. So that's a very important difference to be aware of between action and state verbs. Now, one little important note here for you is that we must avoid using a continuous tense with a state verb, right? So an action verb like sleep, we can say he is sleeping, present continuous. But we cannot use this tense, for example, present continuous, with a state verb like have. So we can't say he is having a headache. It has to be the simple tense. He has a headache. That's just a little note. But we can now go back to state verbs, which have subcategories, and one of them is linking verbs. So what is a linking verb? A linking verb describes or gives more information about the subject of the sentence. It hasn't got anything to do with an object, but mainly information about the subject. For example, the course is, the verb be, interesting. Steve feels ill. The solution sounds right. There is more information in the words interesting, ill, and right about the subjects, the course, Steve, and the solution. That's the definition of a linking verb. So, what is the most common linking verb in English is the verb be. Now, why is be the most common linking verb? Is because it can give many different types of information about the subject. It can tell us about the subject's profession. For example, Steve is a manager. It can tell us about the subject's age. I am 28 years old. If you believe that, you believe anything. It can tell us about someone's nationality. They are Australian. Someone's emotional state. Jane was excited. Someone's, or some things in this case, general attribute. The cakes were delicious. It can even tell us about someone's location. We were in the garden. That's why the verb to be is so common and so used in English. Because if we look at other linking verbs, they can replace be, but only when be is followed by an adjective describing a state or an attribute. So a very narrow use of the verb be. For example, Steve seems efficient. Jane feels excited. These are the other linking verbs. Seems, feels, sound. You sound tired. Smell. The soup smells good. The vegetables looked fresh. The cakes tasted delicious. And there are two other linking verbs that are important, that are get and become. I got angry. I became angry. But if you look at the next word after these verbs, it's always just an adjective, a description. These verbs cannot also give information about age or profession or location, etc. Right? So one little exception, as there always is in English, is that the linking verb become can also be followed by a noun, usually someone's profession. For example, he became a politician. So that's all for the verb be as a linking verb, but the verb to be is also a help verb. So when we want to create a continuous tense or the passive voice, we also need to use the verb be. We already had examples of the continuous tense. I am doing a course, where you can see the verb be, and he is sleeping. Is, again, is one of the conjugations of be. Also in the passive voice, for example, the vegetables are steamed and a solution was found. Now, we're not going to go into any detail on continuous tenses or the passive voice, but just so that you can see how often this verb comes up in the English language. So therefore, it's really important that we conjugate it correctly. And as you have probably noticed, its conjugation is more complicated than any other verb in English. For example, if we compare another important verb in English, have, with be, you can see that have, if you look down the list, only has really three forms: have, has, and had in the past. Whereas the verb be has 6 different forms here: be, am, is, are, was, and were in the past. In the future, things are easy. On top of that, the verb be has specific contractions like I'm, he's, we're, etc. They'll be, again, it's future, the contraction is on the will, not on the be. So, without going into too much detail, because you can use the slides later to review the conjugations, I'm just trying to make you aware of the complication of the conjugation of this very important verb and insist that you do need to revise it and really have it active in order to sound more fluent and accurate. So again, even in the negative, we have the full forms, am not, is not, but also specific contracted forms: isn't, aren't, wasn't, weren't, and then won't be. Now, as you can see, for example, am not doesn't have a contraction, so there are little points you have to be careful of as well. In the question form, it takes direct questions, so am I, is he, etc., or negative questions: am I not, isn't he. Again, a little point here to notice that as am not doesn't have a contracted form, you may also hear the negative question aren't I, which is very strange. Suddenly the verb for I has become are. So aren't I is a strange thing to hear, but it exists. So that's all for the verb to be and the things you need to know and work on. But I thought I'd finish with 2 little fun facts also about the verb be. The first one is about non-standard English. In some non-standard varieties of English, you may hear the word ain't. You have probably heard it. In these varieties, this word ain't replaces am not, isn't, aren't, and even haven't and hasn't. So you may hear something like, this ain't right. It's very informal, very colloquial, and only appropriate in some varieties of English. Therefore, you will definitely hear this word in movies and songs, but like any other non-standard word or phrase, please don't use it yourself. Avoid using it, especially in formal settings. It will be completely inappropriate for you to use this word. And the final fun fact I'd like to share here is about Old English. As you have noticed, and as you know, in modern English, you is both a singular pronoun referring to one person and a plural pronoun referring to 2 or more people. And as you have seen, in both cases, we use the plural verbs are and were. So we can be addressing only one person, like Jackie, and we say, Jackie, are or were you ready? Or we can be addressing 2, 3, 10 people. In this case, Jackie and Sarah. Are, again, same thing. Are you ready or were you ready? So we don't differentiate between singular you and plural you in modern English. But in Old English, you did have a singular version, which was thou, and it would conjugate in the present, thou art, and in the past, thou wert. So if you listen to, well, a Shakespeare play, watch a Shakespeare play, you will hear these words. So you will only see them in classical literature. And of course, you're not going to need them at all yourself, unless you want to sound like Shakespeare. So that's all for the verb to be. I hope it's been helpful. Again, I stress the fact that you need to really know how to conjugate the verb to be in different tenses so that you don't confuse people. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. For more on this topic, click here. Remember to also check out my complete online course, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and happy studies!